Let's roll. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Cardone University Mastermind, 2 p.m. Eastern. Everybody, my name's Todd Straugh. We've got Robert Sislow, the video genius, going to be backing me up today. We've got 15, maybe 20 minutes. We've got questions at 305-865-8668. And again, my name's Todd Straugh. I'm the sales director here for Grants. Basically what that means is I've got the inside guys. We've got some outside salespeople. We're in the trenches. We're moving the products. Grant's on YouTube. He's on Facebook. He's everywhere. He's on Instagram, Snapchat. You'll find him on Facebook. You'll see him on Sirius XM radio. You'll find him all over the place. And when that attention comes to us, it's our job to ring the register and get everybody signed up for Cardone University. So the purpose of today we're going to do 10 minutes, 15 minutes max. We're going to keep it short and tight. We've got the end of the month coming up. So a couple things we're going to be today. We're going to be answering your questions on grantcardonetv.com/mastermind, where you can post your question. You can text a question to 305-865-8668. And then you can also call in as well if you guys have any questions. We've got a short reading from Grant Cardone's book, Sell or Be Sold. We're going to talk about, for me, one of the most important chapters, really the chapter that allowed me to actually leave what I was doing, come here, and the game changer. So we're going to cover that chapter. It's titled The Greats. We're also going to talk about who is Cardone University for. If you're in pharmaceutical sales, if you're selling digital ads, if you're selling tangibles, intangibles, how would Cardone University work if you're thinking about maybe pulling the trigger today? So that's what we have going on for today. So, Robert.
Yes, Todd. How are you? Let's rock and roll, man. Take us in. We start with the greats.
Yep, we're going to be talking about the greats.
What makes a person great?
So really, essentially what I want to do right now is I want to drive your attention to this book, Axiom award-winning, #1 sales book, New York Times best-selling. This is the book right now that we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about what happened for me when I read this chapter, 2012. Got my hands on this book right here, and we're going to be talking about the 3 or 4 pieces that make somebody, or that would classify you as being one of the greats. #1, commitment. It says, how bad do you want to be one of the greats in your fields, one of the masters? The first step and the most important one is to commit all the way. The word commit means to devote oneself completely to something. This was a problem for me. I was 18 years old, and I thought I was committed because I was showing up to work 3 days a week. I was so good at selling, I could afford to be lazy. I was so good, I'd been doing it for so long, I could actually do less work and get away with taking shortcuts. How does a person commit? Right? Committing is as simple as picking a place to park your car, find a spot, get in the car, pull in. Don't keep looking for another space. Commit. Be done with it. Committing is when you make a firm decision, you quit wondering, and you follow through on your commitment with actions. And the reason I chose this chapter is because of this one point right here. It says, whenever I commit myself to any line of action, I get immediate results. Whenever I commit myself to any line of action, I will yield immediate results. And I remember doing this. If my old managers, if he ever sees this, what I would do before I read this book is I would be so lazy, I would basically work 1 week a month. I was pretty talented. I had some hard work. And then I got this book, and I did this commitment piece, and I literally went from $6,000 in sales to $30,000 in sales within 7 days. Because I knew how to get that first piece. I was short on commitment. I literally committed, and I got immediate results. Robert, have you ever done anything like this before? Have you ever seen anything like this in your life?
I mean, if you've ever gone back and forth about making a decision, once you just lock it in as fast and as right as you possibly can, and then you get the results right away.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is probably the biggest reason why people can buy the program, Cardone University. And like, I'm looking at a guy right here.
It changes your whole mindset instantaneously.
Exactly. Like this guy, Upstate Joshua. This was March 16th. I already made $5,000 on my side hustle 2 weeks into the university. Every time I see stories like this, like we have people that literally say, I bought the program and that night I paid it off. And every time I see a ridiculous story like that, I'm like, I always think to this chapter, it's they made the commitment and they got the immediate results. Part 2, to qualify for being the greats, greener pastures. This is a problem in sales. You get a salesperson that goes from company to company, the guys that just bounce around, the guy that works 6 months. I mean, we get applications here all the time. One thing that'll get you probably immediately disqualified from getting a shot at working here is when you send a resume and you've been at every single company for like 3 or 4 months.
No commitment.
Worked here for 3 months, worked here for 4 months, did this for 5 months, and then you've got a resume. I mean, even as I'm looking at LinkedIn accounts today, I mean, you just see lack of commitment all over the place. Greener pastures, those are the salespeople that are constantly looking for other jobs. Commit to the one you have right now. Get great at it first, and that way you don't have to worry about what's going on down the street for somebody else selling some other product. Okay? So number 1, commitment. Number 2, greener pastures. Step 3, that would qualify you as being one of the greats. It's called the power of prediction. The moment I transitioned from an amateur to a professional, I began to study the whole area of selling. I started taking notes on every exchange I had with a customer. I even recorded these experiences on audio and video. I would later study the material like a football team would review playbacks of the game, and I didn't know it then, but that was how I gained the ability to predict. To predict is to know what's going to happen next. Grant is like the super genius of this. I remember doing a deal when I was maybe 90 days into the company, and I ended up stumbling onto a large group of, it was a big customer. They had 15 different locations, hundreds of employees. I kind of stumbled into the deal just by cold calling, and Grant had to get involved because it was a client he'd done business with 10, 15 years ago. And we were trying to take them from a product where we would train their people live to a digital platform. And we did a conference call. Jared flew out to Oregon. Grant and I were here in the office. We're on a conference call. Jared's in there pitching the deal live. And the client, there was like 4 or 5 people in the room. The client said something. We were 2 minutes into the call. The client said one thing on the speakerphone the whole time. I didn't know what was going on. I'm just sitting there taking notes. And something happens where the customer said something. Grant gets up. He puts the phone on mute. And he's like, that's not a deal. There's no deal here. We were 2 minutes into the call. And he already knew that we were on a program. We were on a product. And there was no deal to be had. 25, 30 minutes later, the deal unwound, it fell apart, and within 2 minutes, he knew exactly what was going to happen. Sure enough, we still haven't got the business to this day. To predict is to know what's going to happen next.
And I think that comes from really getting on as many calls as you possibly can, And that was one of the things that Grant told me about. He was like, just get on the phone and start talking to people because you learn as you communicate with every single personality, every single type of business. You're like, oh, I already know where this is going to go. You can just sense it and understand and also know how to solve a problem.
Exactly.
They may not be able to communicate that to you, but you as a salesperson with the training material here is to be able to solve that problem and get that problem out of that individual and solve it. What do you think about that?
No, I mean, it's true. It's true. Here's how you know you can predict, okay? With salespeople, if you can predict your paycheck every month, that's when you've got it. When you know how to predict how much money you're going to make, you say, okay, I know I want to make 60 grand or 50 grand or 3,000 or 6,000 or $600. When you can pick a number and say, hey, that's the number I'm going after. I know exactly what to do in order to get it. And then you go out and you execute and you get that number every single time until you can gain the ability to predict your paycheck. You're inside Cardone University. You're out in the marketplace. You're taking massive actions. You're going through all the rejections and you're skilling up with knowledge, with wisdom after hours until you can get to that place where I know how much money I'm going to make this month. It's not a guessing game. I think that's why there's a negative connotation on sales because it's like unpredictable. It's unstable. That was a big problem for me in my last company. I came home with a job for sales when I was 17. And stability was the thing to be after. I need a stable paycheck, something consistent, predictable. And, that was, I think that's the issue with salespeople. They don't have knowledge. They don't have skills. They don't sit here on a Wednesday at 2:00 in the middle of the day taking notes on how to get great at their job so they can get to the point where they're predicting their income. So I think that's an epidemic in sales, and I think that's why maybe there's some stigma there about being a salesperson. But how do you know that you've got this predictability thing when you know how much money you're going to make each month? And the last piece from this chapter here. For those of you that have the book, I'm on page 35. The only reason you wouldn't like selling. That's the name of the chapter right here. It's the only reason you won't like selling. The only reason you wouldn't like golfing. The only reason you wouldn't like going to an opera. The only reason you wouldn't like doing webinars. The only reason you wouldn't like making phone calls. The only reason people don't like what he's doing is because he doesn't know what he's doing. The only reason a person doesn't like what he's doing is because he doesn't know what he's doing. He isn't winning, and that's because there's something that he doesn't know. The doctor who can't save lives, the guy who can't save lives, he won't like being a doctor. The teacher who can't get the students to learn, sooner or later, they're disenchanted with teaching. A salesman who can't close deals won't like selling. And that's why we have Cardone University. Some people can't read. If you haven't read more than one or two or three, if you haven't read 3 books this year, maybe you don't like to read. Maybe you get this on Audible. How much is it? It's like $20. Mm-hmm. You go to, you download the MP3. But for those of you that that you're not the person that finishes books, that's why we've got like 1,300 segments of content on Cardone University. Short videos, easy testing, reporting, accountability. So how do you know Cardone University is for you? You already have training. Every single person we've ever sold the program to, they have Cardone. They all have training, don't they, Robert?
They do.
One question. I'm going to read a question from, let's see here, from Upstate Josh. Oh, actually, no, not this guy. Let's see here. Where's it at? It says, will Cardone University work for me if I'm in pharmaceutical sales? Is this something just for automobile? Is this something just for retail? Is this something just for one-call close?
Great question.
This is a question we get all the time. No, the answer is no. And I've actually created a diagram to actually explain how Cardone University works. That's awesome. Just keep talking. All right, cool. So here's how Cardone University works. Every single company that has ever bought from us, they all have product knowledge, and you all have industry-specific sales training. Product knowledge. How does the product work? In my last company, it was knives. The type of knife, how it's used, when it's used, what it's made out of. If you're selling a product like Cardone University, knowing all the different boxes. So they arm you with product knowledge. That's part one. The second thing they do is they arm you with industry-specific sales process. That's basically how it's always been sold. The top person, the best practices. It is the way that it's always been. So you follow some sort of a playbook that they give you when you're brand new. And if everything goes according to plan, the customer, they just lay down and they buy from you. Product knowledge, industry-specific sales processes. You've got your marketing to traffic. You've got cold calls, advertising. You've got email campaigns, anything that's going to get you in front of a customer. Then there's the salesperson. The salesperson's got product knowledge, how the product works, how to sell it, and then you get a percentage of people that buy your product. Typically 20, 30, 40, 50, 60% of those people buy if it all goes perfect. Cardone University. This piece right here, the people that don't buy. When a customer says, I'm not interested, the payments are too high, the price is too high, I got to talk to my partner, I got to check with the wife, got to check with my mom, got to check with the husband. I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know if I'm going to use it. We bought a program like this last time. It got untouched. Any issue where you get resistance is what the university is designed. So we can get 5 to 10% increase just on closing percentage with your unsold customers with the content in the closing section. Customers aren't buying, you hit the follow-up box. You get those unsold customers back in the conversation. Percentage of these happen because you messed up in the greeting or the fact-finding piece. So that's how Cardone University, that's why we've got clients that sell yachts, they sell internet digital marketing, they sell websites, we have people that sell ankles to doctors and operating rooms. We have clients that sell graves, insurance, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley. There's the full spectrum of companies that use the same product in a different industry, and they all get the same result, more sales. So slide Cardone University, attach it to the on-sell customers, and that's what we want to do for you guys. So for those of you guys that don't have the program, you can go to cardoneu.com. It used to be $13,000. We have it on sale right now for $995. And for those of you guys that have questions, feel free to give us a call. We're going to be wrapping up here in about 2 minutes. But if there's any phone calls here, Nathan says, Cardone University can help any industry. It works only if you work it, absolutely. You've got to be committed, and the program will help you. Awesome. Any good apps to record outbound calls to review the conversation? Voice memo app on your phone. Put it on speakerphone. Use the voice memo app.
Or just record yourself on video on your computer while you make it work.
Yeah. Grant tells stories in the programs about how he used to buy digital cameras and he would record himself on the phone, do the playbacks afterwards, tapes, whatever. I mean, there's plenty of free apps on your phone where you can record the conversations. If you have a dialing system, I know a lot of those calls get recorded automatically. Robert, anything else before you want to wrap up here today?
We're good.
Any questions?
All right, good on my end.
All right, guys, so we're going to keep it short. We're going to keep it tight. If you guys need anything from us in the future, make sure to post your questions to 305-865-8668. Feel free to text those questions, and we'll get to those next week, just like we got to these ones here last week. And if there's anything you guys need, my name's Todd Straugh. This is Robert. We'll see you next Wednesday at 2 p.m.